Catherine Yaffe. It should be Samantha here tonight, but she's not feeling very well, so I'm standing in. Do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself and your book?
Yeah, sure. So hi everyone. As Caroline said, my name is Catherine, or Cat. And the book that I have out is called The Lie She Told, which is a crime thriller set in the Highlands of Scotland. I live in the north of England with my husband, Mark, and our two cats, either one of which may make an appearance. So I apologise if you see a tail bobbing along the screen at some point. Yeah, so it was the launch of the book yesterday, which went fantastically well. We hit the top 100 in Kindle, so I was super pleased with that. So yeah, it's kind of just talking about it now and getting the word out.
Exciting. What inspired you to write a book set in the Highlands of Scotland?
It's a place where my husband and I went up there. It would be maybe 8 or 9 years ago, and we just fell in love with the place. In fact, we put an offer in our house last year for I called it a writer's retreat, but for a holiday home. Unfortunately, it fell through. But yeah, we just fell in love with the place. It's so remote, you can't get an internet connection. You're literally just so isolated. And the people are so warm and so friendly. The scenery is just breathtaking. The sea's like the Caribbean, it's so blue. So yeah, I just kind of, I felt it was my spiritual home, and I just really wanted to set a book there. Yeah.
So what was your research like for where you set it? Did you, while you were up there, take lots of photos and use them for inspiration? Or
yeah, we did. I mean, the first time, when we went the first time, I had the main character for The Lie She Told in my head anyway. She's called Kate, and she's a character that's kind of been with me for a few years. And as soon as I went to Gairloch, which is part of the Highlands where we go, I just thought this is where Kate's from. So I gathered every piece of tourist information that I possibly could, and I've got a box, and like an archive box, just a massive box full of stuff. And then I spoke to, there's a little local newspaper up there, so I spoke to them just to get a little bit of a feel for Highland life. Because we've been going so long, we've stayed at the same places maybe 2 or 3 times. We've got really friendly with a lot of the locals as well. So I was kind of, chatting to them about it. And there's a tiny, tiny bookshop. And I went in there, and they specialise in selling, that's independent published or self-published. So when I told them I was writing a book, they were, you must send us some copies, which I have done. And everybody was just super helpful, and couldn't help me enough, really.
Well, that's one of the questions that Sam put on. She said, tell us about the bookshop there.
Yeah, it's a tiny little place, and it's a bookshop that doubles as a cafe, and then it's got like an outside eating area. Now, if you've ever been to the Scottish Islands, you'll know that the weather is atrocious. So I don't think the outside eating area gets used very much at all. But they serve organic coffee, and they've got a vegetarian menu, and the range of books that they have is so eclectic. It's anything from, there was a book on sheds, right through to a book on Highland life back in the 17th century, to Robert Galbraith and Stuart McBride, and a lot of popular Scottish authors as well. Yeah, and it's lovely. It's just a right tiny little place.
So where did the idea for Kate come from?
She formed as a character, like I say, years ago, maybe 8 or 9 years ago. And I wanted her to be, I always knew that she was going to relocate somewhere. That was always, and that was kind of my starting point, really. And then it was kind of building the character from there, as build the background, and a family, a sister, and what her upbringing was like, and then kind of stepped it forward a little bit. And I wanted somebody that was strong and independent, and who had a good relationship with their son, which is kind of similar to what I've got with my own son. But somebody who also has flaws, because we're not all perfect. We don't all do the right thing. We don't always make the right decisions. And I wanted her to have her head turned and surrender to her emotions, because she'd been isolated for so long. I wanted her to give in to that flaw that sometimes we all have, we all do, when we know we shouldn't. A sod it moment, I think I've called it in the book. And I just wanted to challenge that female character and demonstrate her flaws as well as her strengths.
So there's a question from Sam, but I would have asked this as well. It's a good one. There is such a mix of characters in the book. How hard was it to keep track of them all?
Well, this is quite funny actually, because I didn't plan this. I didn't do any planning for this book. I knew where I wanted it to. I knew the end result. I knew what I wanted the end result to be, and I knew the main character. Didn't know any of the rest of them, and I must have been about halfway through. So I'd hit that awful 30 to 40,000 word mark where you just feel like you're drowned in and the whole thing's a disaster. And I actually thought, I actually don't know where any of my characters are. There was some over here, there was some in hospital, there was somebody in a bar, and I had to sit down and draw a map and kind of write where people were and then give a timeline to it, because I'd just got myself all completely confused. So I had to then go back to the beginning and rewrite lots of it because I'd got one person in two places. So for book 2, which is already written, I've actually planned this one, so it won't be so much of a pain to go back and change anything because I've got it all written down.
Is book 2 going to have some of the same characters in?
Yeah, it has one main character that stays the same. I won't say who it is because I don't want to spoil it. But yeah, it's a bit of a continuation. There's actually 3 books in this series. So the book 2 will focus on one main character, and book 3 focuses on another main character, so that it all comes full circle at the end. That's the plan anyway.
Great. When I read books by people who make really rich characters like you, like lots of them, I always ask them if they'd be tempted to write novellas about like the side characters. So, like the guy who owns the cafe,
Jack,
in yours, who's really nice. I feel like he's got a story that could be like a little novella.
Yeah, he has. Actually, I've got a series of blog posts planned that are all kind of not novella length, but little short stories that will cover the characters, because there's a bit of a shift in timeline. So it will cover the characters, their background, and then what they're doing now leading up to the release of book 2. So it is planned. It's not written, but it is planned.
Great. Sam says, what are your cats called? One has an almost moustache.
Yeah, so I've got they're called Jensen and Button. I'm a racing fan. Jensen is a big tabby. He's 8 years old, and Button is black and white. He's the one that's got the tash, and he's 2 years old, and he's utterly stupid. There are no words for it. It's stupid. He sleeps upside down, and he can walk across a fence and just literally fall over. He's no common sense whatsoever.
So you said you didn't plan the first book at all?
No, there was no plotting.
How have you done any plotting for the next 2?
Yes, I've done the book 2. I did the plot. I did the 3-act structure, and stuck to that, which helped me massively. I also did the timeline before I started writing, so I didn't hit the problems that I had with book 1. And on book 2, I'm working with an editor called Rebecca Miller, a developmental editor, because I feel I've got more I can give, and I want to learn as an author, because this is, The Lie She Told is my first book. It's my first kind of foray into fiction writing. I did the Curtis Brown creative course last year, which was fantastic, and I learned so much from that. And then The Lie She Told came out on the back of that. But for book 2, I'm going to be working with Rebecca Miller, so I'm really excited about that. Great.
TG, who's one of our author members, she writes as TK Gearing, says, have you got any hobbies away from the writing world?
Formula 1. We usually try and get to Silverstone every year. And reading, I read constantly. And true crime. I'm a massive true crime fan. So I'm usually watching Murder Detectives or Forensic Files or something of that ilk. And I listen to quite a lot of true crime podcasts as well whilst I'm writing, which is interesting. So yeah, I'm a cats. And I'm also a part-time cat sitter. So I look after other people's cats in between my writing as well.
Nice. Do the true crime podcasts give you any inspiration?
A lot, yeah. I was asked this the other day, actually. It does, as in there's a couple of murders that I've taken bits from, but what I find tends to happen is I'm writing, the host will kind of say a word or will explain a situation or a certain position or whatever, and I go, oh, that's exactly the word I've been looking for. So yeah, it prompts me. Yeah.
Great. Sam says the whole setting for the book is lovely and feels like somewhere she wants to spend time. You show it well. Have you ever been tempted to sort of put pictures on of like the locations in your book?
I didn't with this one because I've written so much about it over on my blog. There's tons and tons of pictures of the cafe, of the harbour, of the pub, of Flowerdale Falls, and kind of a lot of scenery shots as well. So there's so much on my blog, and with it being self-published, I did it on Kindle, and Kindle Create is not great. It's not great at doing stuff like that. So no, I didn't. But yeah, it's all over my Facebook page and on my blog. So if you want to have a look on there for some pictures, there'll be loads.
Cool. Why did you decide to self-publish?
Because I'm impatient. I'm impatient, and I'm a little bit of a control freak. I was offered a publishing deal maybe 5 years ago now, and it was a 2-book deal. And I submitted my first draft, and it came back with so much red pen on it, which obviously now, a little bit more experienced, understand that that's completely normal. But at the time, I just wanted to crawl under the quilt and never come out again. And it really knocked my confidence. It took me a while to get that back. And then when I've written The Lie She Told, I always knew it was going to be self-published. And I wanted to keep that control of the whole process. So I didn't want to have to submit it to have to wait until the publishing house decided on a date when it fit into their calendar for it then to go ahead. And I've also set myself targets. So it's 3 books a year for the next 5 years. So to stay within those targets, it meant self-publishing was the only option. And also I've got a digital marketing background. So everything that a publishing house would do, I would do naturally anyway. So it just made more sense. I've got the email list, I've got the social media presence. It just made more sense for me to do it myself.
Great. How do you think lockdown has affected that experience? So
it's been a really weird time. Do you mean for me, or do you mean just in the publishing industry in general?
For you, mostly.
Okay, it's actually been a really weird time, as it has for most people, because when we first went into lockdown, I couldn't face anything. I couldn't write a word. I had all these plans as to how I was going to do it. The book was actually supposed to come out at the beginning of June. And I ended up kind of retreating, really, and I redecorated my entire house. My dad got poorly, so I had to look after him, and it just became a kind of a mishmash. It was a strange time anyway, and then it was just a mishmash of things happened, and it wasn't until July, effectively, as we were coming out of lockdown, I had enough headspace to say, right, I need to focus and get back on with this. As for the publishing industry in general, I think I'm hoping that this is the wake-up call that the publishing industry needs, because it's so antiquated in the way that it's run. I feel, in my experience, and I just don't think it's kind of kept with today's authors. They have far too much control when authors should be able to take more on board themselves, I think.
Fair enough. I think there's probably a lot of authors who agree with you.
Yeah.
TG also wants to know, would you write in other genres? And if so, which?
I don't know. I'd like to write a bit something similar to Richard Osman's got the Thursday Murder Club out, and I've read that, and I absolutely love his style. I would love to give something like that a go. It's got the little hints of humour in it, quite dry, quite satiric. I would love to give that a go. My other idea as well is, when I'm not getting mixed up in the true crime world, I'm a massive fan of historical fiction, and I adore the C.J. Sampson books. So I would like to do maybe a historical detective-y, murdery type thing, but with my own sort of twist on it. I don't know.
That'd be great. Loads of research though.
Well, yeah, I mean, it'd have to be set in the Tudor period, because that's the one that I know kind of back to front. Yes, it would probably be set in Tudor period, and about Henry VIII and all that. Did
you have any experts that you talked to for this book?
Yes, I did. I've got a wonderful contact called Steve Gaskin. He's former DCI with the London Met. So him and I had quite a few chats. Peter Blexley as well. And then a couple from the local police force that I know helped me out with a few bits and bobs as well. So yeah, it was kind of cultivating those contacts has been interesting. Please help me, I'm an author.
We have a good list in our group of all the people who can help.
Yeah, do you know, actually, it wasn't, I think it was David that was updating something the other day, and he mentioned, and I thought, oh God, why didn't you just do that?
I don't think everyone always knows it's there.
Yeah, I think it's just tucked away in the files, isn't it? I must have a look at that.
Yeah. Sam says, how did it feel to become a full-time writer straight away?
Scary. Yeah, scary. But I was, cat's trying to get in. But I was utterly committed to it. I've had such a varied career. Majority of it has been in sales and marketing. Writing a book was always one thing that I wanted to do. And I thought, actually, do you know what? I turned 50 in January. If I don't do it now, I will never do it. So once I'd made the decision, with the support of my wonderful husband, thank God, it felt like a weight had been lifted. It felt like I was finally free. It was I could just roam around in my own head. It was brilliant. Yeah, scary, but brilliant.
Did you design your own cover?
No, it's by a guy called Ivan. I can't remember his surname. Ivan Zacchetti, and his business is bookcoversart.com, and this is a pre-made one. And I was just kind of scrolling through one day, and obviously this character is, I can never do this. So this character, I just looked at it and I just said, that's Kate. That's exactly what Kate looks like. So I collaborated with him to do the rest of it. And then actually I've used him again for book 2 because a similar thing happened. Again, he just said, look, I think if this is kind of your genre, we'll take a look at these. And there was one of them that just bang. It's like, right, I've got to have that. That's it. That's the one. So book 2 is already, cover's already been designed. It's not written fully, but I've got a nice cover.
Do you have a title for book 2?
Yes, I do, but I can't share it yet.
Fair enough. Sam says, can you tell us about your writing plan for the next books?
Okay, so book 2, I am hoping to have out at the end of January 2021. Book 3 in this series will come out round about the end of April. And then I'm going to take a break. And September, I'll start a new series. And then it will be 3 books within each series for the next, however long I can keep writing for, however long people want to keep reading it.
Do you have ideas for the next series already?
Yeah. Yes, I do. Yeah. It's already there, bubbling away. And it's kind of nice because it's something that I do kind of subconsciously. It's not, I don't sit down and think, right, what's the next series going to be about? It's kind of got a myriad of ideas going on. And I know that when I sit down, it'll just pour out of me. It's not something that I, give conscious thought to. It'll just be scribbling away and brainstorming. And I have, I don't think I've got any up at the moment, but the shed where I write, I have the dry whiteboards. So I just get a marker pen and scribble on there and see what works, and then what really lights me up to say, right, I need to write a book about that.
Cool. I like that idea. It'd be nice to see your dry whiteboards when you've like finished.
Yeah, well, you can see one briefly now. This is the I can't show it too much because this is book 2. So this is kind of a bit of the plan. And that's what I do. I just kind of have that on the wall and scribble on it with post-it notes and index cards. And yeah, usually by the time I finish the planning, all of this wall is just it's just whiteboards.
Brilliant. Sam says, how did you celebrate publication day yesterday?
It was amazing. It was absolutely amazing. So my son and his fiance popped over and brought me some helium balloons. Can you see them? Yep. They brought me a bottle of champagne and some flowers. My husband made me a very lovely tea. And then I did Facebook Live. And then I sit hitting Amazon refresh constantly to see how many I'd sold. And about, as of 5 o'clock yesterday afternoon, we hit the Kindle Top 100, which was amazing. Slipped a little bit overnight, but there's more activity coming up. So I'm hoping we'll get back in there. I desperately want that bestseller type. I don't know why. I just do.
How did it feel doing the Facebook Live on your own?
I'm kind of used to it because I've been in digital marketing for about a bit longer than 15 years actually. So I used to train people how to do Facebook Lives when it first came out. So yeah, it was, and plus also like my son said, because I was a little bit nervous, and he just said, but everybody's there because you're not selling them anything, you're just sharing your experience as a writer, so nobody's going to be mean, and if they are, just block them. So and I knew a lot of the people. We'd had some interaction on Twitter or social media or through my newsletter anyway, so it was nice. I felt like I was amongst friends, and several glasses of champagne also helped with the confidence.
I can imagine. So Sam says, did you read over lockdown?
Yes, I did actually. It was probably one of the saving graces. I read The Mirror and the Light, the Hilary Mantel, which, oh God, my God, that's a hell of a read. That took up most of lockdown. And I think Callie Taylor's Strangers came out, so I read that as well. And then is it Tony that's in the group? DI Bliss, is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I started because he did the 5 books thing. They did the 5 set anyway. Yes, so I've read all of them, which are brilliant, by the way. So yeah, it's a lot of reading.
Who are your favourite authors? And I call them your shut up and take my money authors. The ones that you'll just buy.
Yeah, Claire McIntosh, Callie Taylor, Mark Edwards, Stephen King, of course, Val McDermid, Stuart McBride, endless list. And then kind of on the flip side of that, it will be Philippa Gregory for the historical fiction, and CJ Sampson. And then actually during lockdown, I also read Jojo Moyes, The Giver of Stars, which just the most comforting book ever. Loved it. So I'm now working through Jojo Moyes' back catalogue as well.
Fair enough. Sam says, how often do you visit Garlock?
Gairloch.
I'm not going to pronounce that right.
Gairloch, yeah. So before lockdown, we would go up 3 times a year. We'd go beginning of January, and then at Easter, and then again end of October, beginning of November. But we've not been up since last Easter, or not Easter. Just gone the Easter before, for various reasons. That's when we put the offering on the house, but it all fell through. I was gutted, cried. I literally had a tantrum like a baby. I stomped my feet.
Any plans to still try to move up there?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, we when all this chaos and craziness is over, we're going to go back up, and we'll. I know the thing is, I know the area that I want, so that I do have friends up there that'll message me and say, this has just come on the market, but I'm quite specific. I want to be overlooking the harbour, and I want to have my own little landing area, and yeah. So
You're going to have a
Mm.
Would you widen out your settings? So, like, I feel like the setting for the lies she told is really important, and it's like almost as important as some of the characters at times.
Yeah.
Would you use other places as well?
Yeah. Book 2 and book 3 in this, well, it's actually book 2 in this series is set in Leeds, in and around Leeds. And book 3 is, sorry, my cat's crying at the door. Book,
you can let him in if you want.
Just give me a sec, hang on. He'll just interrupt everything. What are you doing? Hold on. Yeah, so book 2 is set in Leeds, and book 3 is not written yet. I've done the synopsis. I'm not sure. A mixture of Scotland and Leeds.
TG wants to know what your typical writing day looks like.
It varies. When I'm kind of in the midst of just solidly writing, then I'm a bit of an early bird, so I'll probably get into the shed for about 7 o'clock, work through till 12, have some lunch. I'm a big fan of afternoon naps, so I'll probably watch a true crime programme, have a nap, and then if I can be bothered, I'll go back into the shed for another couple of hours. But it really varies, because I have fibromyalgia, so some days I wake up and I'm just cognitively I'm just not there, and the thought of putting my fingers on a keyboard is sometimes it's just too much. So on those days I'm very fortunate in that I can just say, right, this is a sofa day today, so I can't write today. That took a lot of getting used to, but I'm with it now, it's fine.
Sam, I think, knows us both very well, because she's saying both, what are your beverages tonight, ladies? And have you got your pyjama pants on today?
Well, beverages, red wine again, Sam, in glass, but I've left it in the house purposely. And yes, I've got pyjamas on.
I don't, because I had to go to work. So I've got work clothes on. Oh. I have beer as my beverage.
Yeah, that's fine. No, I've bought red wine, so we're just having a couple of glasses. Champagne's still swirling around from last night, so it won't be that much.
Can't pull it out with the red wine.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to other authors now your debut's done?
For new authors, would be just, I think the biggest mantra I've kind of chanted to myself is just write without fear. And by that I mean it doesn't matter what you write. Nobody has to see it but you, just as long as you write. So write without fear of editing, without fear of judgment, without fear of that red pen, because that, when I got that back that time, it really knocked my confidence. And even on the days when you don't feel like writing and you just sat, oh, it's crap outside, I feel like crap, husband's driving me mad or whatever, just as long as you write something and write that without fear would be my advice.
Did you make friends with any other debut authors while you were working on yours?
No, not really. There's a couple of people within the group who actually received advanced reader copies. I think I put a call out in there, and they've been back in touch to say, we've read the book we bought, we've left reviews and things. There are a couple of crime writers over in the true crime groups that I'm in, that I've had a bit of back and forth with, but it's a difficult time because you can't meet for a coffee or anything, and it's not the same when you meet on screen.
There is not, is it?
No, it's weird.
Are you in lockdown like we are as well in our little area of Leeds?
Yeah, no, we're not, because I'm in Wakefield, and we're not, thankfully, but mum and dad live in Leeds and they are, but because they both need care, I'm having to self-isolate. Well, I'm having to shield so that I can stay in as part of their support bubble, because they don't really have anybody else. So even though we're not officially in lockdown, I am still kind of shielding, and only going out if I need to go to the supermarket or something.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, it's crap.
No. Well, we're back in that. I'm in the lockdown area.
Oh, are you really? So is that it then? Are you just at home?
Well, apart from going to work, yeah.
Yeah.
Go to work every day.
It's mad, isn't it? No end in sight either, unfortunately.
So TG wants to know, do you swap your characters' names around?
Do I swap them round?
Mm.
As in, what do you mean? As in, do I swap them around?
I'm presuming she's wondering if you've like changed them as you've written.
Oh, okay. No, I come up with character names as I'm writing. But what I did learn halfway through the Lies She Told, as I said, when I got myself into a bit of a pickle, I bought a massive box of index cards, and I now have index cards with everybody's name written on it and their date of birth and how many kids they've got and how many daughters and sons and aunties and uncles. So I've got a full cast history.
Was it quite true? How did you come up with the names? So you said you did them as you were writing.
Yeah.
Where did you go for inspiration for the names?
Well, Jack Bruce came about. He's the cafe owner. Came about because there is actually a guy up there called. Well, it's two guys. One's called Jack and one's called Bruce. So I just put them together. Ryan is based on a lad that I didn't like when I was at school. Kate is because I always wanted to be called Kate and nobody ever called me. I get called Cat instead. And Joe is funny because my son, when he was little, he's 28 now, and I said this on my Facebook launch thing last night, and he was furious. When he was like 5 or 6, he insisted that everybody called him Joey. He desperately wanted to change his name. He's called Daniel. He desperately wanted to be called Joey. So when I was writing the character of Joe, I thought I can't call him Joey because it just reminds me of Friends now. So I just shortened it to Joe. So yeah, it's a random selection of how I get the names, really.
I'm down with you. And I used to refuse to answer to my name when I was little because I didn't like it.
Really?
Yeah. Sam says, what can you see from your writing shed?
Nothing. My back garden. So no, it's not very exciting. I mean, it's nice in the summer when all the flowers are out and stuff, but right now, and especially when it's raining, it's just depressing. You just look out there and it's just really depressing. But I'm very fortunate to have a shed. So
yeah, is it literally? I'm now imagining like your little garden shed with you writing in it.
No, it's a garden office, really. I call it. You see on the thing where it's a shed of words. That's what we christened it when it was built about 7 years ago. There used to be a garage on here, but it needed to be taken down because it had asbestos in. And I just said, I don't want another garage. We've got like a massive drive. I don't need a garage. I want a writing shed. So I had it built, had it custom built, and it just sits at the back of the garden, and it's lovely. And it's been a few things in its time actually, because when my son lived at home, I was working full time, so I didn't use the shed that much. So he moved in an old sofa, massive TV, games unit, beer fridge, and I would come home from work and there would just be all this noise coming out of the shed, and it was Daniel with all his stupid mates gaming until silly o'clock. And then he went travelling for a year, so I reclaimed it, and ever since then it's been a shed of writing. But my husband's working from home, so I've let him rent office space in exchange for cups of coffee.
That seems reasonable. Sam also wonders, how did Jack and Bruce feel about having their names used?
Do you know what? I don't know, actually. I need to message the Gaylord group and see, actually. That's a good point. I don't know. I didn't tell them, so...
Did you base, so because the town is real, did you base any of the characters beyond like just the names and them being slightly annoying? Did you base them on anyone that you knew?
I can't, can I say? All I'm going to say is Janice. And if you know who Janice is within the book and the busybody that she is, is based on somebody. That's all I can say about that. I'll never be allowed back in.
TG wants to know, do your characters take over when you write? And how do you pull them back into line when they do?
100%. Ryan went completely off on a tangent and made his own plot. And just when I first started writing, the very first idea for The Lie She Told, it was kind of a whimsical, romancy, I hate the phrase, chiclet kind of thing. And then when I started writing it, it started to get a bit dark. And then when I introduced the character of Ryan, it just really took a turn for the darkness. And I much preferred it to what the initial idea that I'd had. And yeah, writing his scenes and his relationship with his dad as well, I had to kind of say, right, okay, Ryan, just get back in line now, mate.
There is, without giving away spoilers, some quite dark moments in there. Is there anything you wouldn't write about?
No. The book 2 is set mostly in a BDSM club, so that'd be interesting when my mum and dad read it.
I don't even want to know how you research. Like,
I don't want to know how I got there.
That's going to be an interesting.
Okay. I will just say it's not based on experience, not based on personal experience. I just want to put that out there.
Is it based on anywhere real in Leeds?
Yeah. The things that Google shows you, it's amazing.
No, I believe you. Did you know how the book would end when you started writing it?
Yes. Yeah, I did. Because I always knew that Kate was going to escape and start again, and I knew what I wanted the lie to be, and it was then, right, how do we make that work? What do I need to now create to make that work? So it was good.
How much time do you spend doing the promotional side?
It depends. In the last 2 or 3 weeks, it's been mostly promotional. It's been creating images, writing blog posts, reaching out to magazines and podcasts and things like that. I didn't send out a press release because I just didn't feel that. I didn't do the press release thing. I just contacted the magazines direct to say, would you be interested? And let me send you a copy, and then waited for them to come back to me. So I would say maybe out of the 3 months it takes to write, maybe a month spent getting all the marketing assets together on the images and blog posts and things like that.
Fair enough. Sam is asking you to tell us about your short stories.
The ones that I mentioned earlier.
Okay,
so I felt that I didn't intentionally write The Lie She Told to be an easy, quick read. It was just how the story unfolded, and I felt really comfortable with it being an easy, quick read. But I do still feel that the depth of the characters is fine for it is and for that story, but I want people to know more about them. I did a course with a lady called Stephanie Hutton. She's at Tired Psych on Twitter. She's a psychologist, and it was about character psychology, and it was kind of taking your characters from being born to a toddler to teens to early 20s, and if they were faced with this life challenge, how would they deal with it and stuff like that. So I've got a massive amount of material about every single character that's in that book, even Janice. And I just feel that I want to share that with the readers so that they fully understand a little bit more. because I didn't want to put it into the book because I didn't want to get bogged down in detail. I used to be a journalist, so it was always fact, fact, fact. And I think some of that journalism writing has maybe spilled over a little bit. And I've kept it quite tight and stripped back. I don't use too much flowery language. So there will be a short story appearing on the website for each of the characters, and it will tell you a little bit more about them.
So I, as a reader, and I can only speak for myself, really like to read a book where I feel like the author knows like so much more detail about the people and the setting and the characters than there is in the book, because it makes them feel rich when you're reading it. And it's really nice to know. So I love that you've got like all these other.
Oh yeah, I mean it just seems such a shame to have it just sat on a shelf doing nothing. And you know, one of the things that's been said in a lot of the reviews is that, you know, we love the characters, and I just think if that's going to kind of help people to understand a little bit more, then yeah, I'm going to do it.
Yeah, really great characters.
Thank you.
Were any of the scenes in the lives you told difficult to write?
Yes, there were two in particular which I don't want to go into too much.
Yeah, I was going to say, can you
because
do
it might be spoiler, but it was, some of them were, yeah.
My mind went to one that I thought might be difficult, but that involves like the film. But
yeah, the gruesome ones were super easy to write. I had so much fun with that. In fact, I had to take a lot of it out. I had so much fun with it. I think probably maybe the emotion between Kate and Ryan was one of the hardest thing. Because like I said earlier, I wanted to show this weakness, but I also wanted to show her as a strong woman, and it was, how do I get that balance right? So yeah, that was tough.
What's your proudest moment apart from publication day as an author?
Oh God, I don't know. I do know. At the front of the book, can you see? Oh, I never know how to do this. Right, that's the camera. At the front of the book, it's dedicated to Mum and Dad. Dad's had a terrible time this year. He just got over throat cancer and then got diagnosed with chronic heart failure, and he's been in and out of hospital and ICU and one thing and another. So I was desperate to get this book out as soon as I could so that he could see it. And I handed it to him, and he just looked at the dedication, and he filled up, and I cried. And that, for me, just everything worthwhile. So that's my proudest moment.
Have all your family read it?
My mum has. Dad hasn't, because his concentration's not what it used to be. But Mum's read it, yeah. 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 And she got it wrong.
What about your son? Has he read it?
Yes, Daniel read the very early draft, and actually it was him and his girlfriend who pointed out the similarities between Kate and Joe's relationship as in mine and Daniel's relationship. They're going on adventures and the picnics and the animals and things. And I guess I did that subconsciously, because it wasn't something I sat down to say, I want this to reflect me and Daniel. It just kind of happened. I wrote from experience, I think.
TG also wonders, do you edit as you go or when you finish the book?
When I finished, can't do it as I go. I'm too in the moment. I get too carried away with writing the words, and I have to write it. I have to do a full draft and then go back and do the edits and then rewrite it and then do the edits and then rewrite it and get that process out before I start on the line edits and all the boring stuff.
Do you own any signed books from other authors? And
yes,
if possible, to buy signed copies of The Lies She Told?
Oh, interesting. This is weird, because a few people have asked me if they can have signed copies, and I'm like, well, why would you want that? But then I think, well, actually, I've got signed copies. So I've Philippa Gregory signed Wideacre. Don't know where that is. I met her at some kind of book, must have been a book fair. And then a really interesting one, Joanne Harris signed Chocolat, because I was fortunate enough to be one of 6 who had dinner with her one evening, a little place in Huddersfield. And she was so generous with her time and answering questions. And I took my original copy of Chocolat with me, and she signed it on the night. So that's,
oh, wow.
Yeah, that's wrapped in tissue paper and stashed away.
A really special one.
Yeah.
So, would you sell signed copies of The Lies She Told?
Yeah, 100%. So I had to give it some serious thought, because I've had, I mean, it's not, it's not kid ourselves. I'm not J.K. Rowling. I've had maybe 5-10 people have asked me. So yeah, if anybody does want a signed copy, if you just message me directly via Facebook, and I'll sort that out for you.
Great. Sam, she says, other than BDSM, what do you... It's a great way to start a question, Sam. What do you think you need to research for future novels?
I think probably more up-to-date police procedures, because The Lies She Told is set in 98, and then obviously we've had the introduction of PACE, and the CPS changed their charging standards. So probably more up-to-date police procedurals. And I would absolutely love to attend a post-mortem.
Yeah, that'd be really interesting.
Yeah, well, I've just read this by Dr. Richard Shepherd, which was really, you see all the tabs that I put in there for references, and he's a Home Office pathologist, and it's all about the cases and then the resulting bodies that he opened up, I guess. I don't know a nice way to say that. It's fascinating, absolutely fascinating. So that would be
there was a documentary a really long time ago. This is probably going to tell you a lot about me as well, by Gunter von Hagens, the guy who does the plastinated bodies.
Oh yeah
exhibition, and he did like a post-mortem sort of, but like opened up the bodies and talked about the organs and stuff on TV.
Oh, okay. No, I'm not seen that. I've watched a few on YouTube, and I mentioned Steve Gaskin before. He also runs the Crime Lab, and he's done a lot of presentations for Crime Lab members on postmortems and stuff. Is Sam being cheeky again?
She is. She said she's being cheeky, but you can take it. And then she also says maybe she can have a safe word before you're...
She's not that bloody poorly, is she?
Certainly not. Maybe she just set it up so that I had to ask all the embarrassing questions. Yeah. Like, I would have been way nicer to her.
Hilarious. She's a bugger.
But she's brilliant and we love her. TD says, do you fall in love with your characters?
I fell in love with Kate, but I think that's because she's been in my head for so long. I said to somebody asked me this yesterday, and I said if she was to walk through the door right now, we'd be best mates for life. So yeah, I do. And in book 2, actually, I'm not going to tell you. I can't tell you without giving it away, so no. So yeah, Kate was easy to fall in love with.
Have you cast them in your head if you were lucky enough to get like a TV deal?
I think I have, yeah. That's a bit egotistical, isn't it?
No.
Julia Roberts would be Kate. And just because Tom Hardy would be Ryan. Just a personal thing.
Is that just so you can be on set every day?
Yeah.
There were some comments from Sam here. She says She can't wait to find out which character will appear in book 2 in the club.
Oh yeah, okay, all right. Not saying anything.
And she says she's going to sign in at the end so that we can see the state of her.
Oh, bless her. No, don't be doing that if you're poorly.
And I'm going to let her have it next time I'm in. I am. Yeah. I'm going to get my revenge. Definitely.
You're all bonkers.
How did you come up with the title then for the book?
Well, I had whiteboards again. I must have had about 15, 20 different titles on a whiteboard behind me. And then I found one day I was talking to someone and they said, what's the name of your book? And I just came out with it. And I just thought, right, well, that's obviously what it needs to be then. And I felt it gave enough away without giving too much, because I found that people have read it and they've gone down a certain path and been utterly convinced that they knew what this lie was. And then as they've got to the end, they've gone, oh, I didn't see that coming. Yeah, and then the next two kind of fall within that. It'll make sense. I swear it'll make sense.
I'm sure it will. What are you going to spend your break on?
I don't know. I usually get quite busy with the cat sitting from like May until the end of August. I'm hoping against hope that we can go away somewhere and have a holiday. Plus my son's getting married next year, hopefully. We're supposed to get married this year, but that got put off. And it's both mine and my husband's 50th. So we promised ourselves that we would catch some of the European Grand Prix. So probably we'll do Spa, maybe Italy, France. Have a bit of a road trip. Fingers crossed. That's if this book sells enough.
So we want is everyone to go to Amazon now after this?
Yes, please, yeah. Just search The Lie She Told, it comes up.
Which was the easiest or most difficult character to write?
Easiest was Kate, and the most difficult was Ryan, really, because I had to keep reining him in. But it also, I don't know, it's strange because you kind of, in our normal lives, we don't attack people, we don't murder people, we're not naturally violent. Well, I'm certainly not. So when you're writing these things, it's so far out of your comfort zone that you kind of pull back a bit and think, oh, I can't believe I just did that. But then there's another part of you that's thinking, this is amazing because I will never do this in real life. So Ryan was quite just like psychological, to just get my own head around that really was quite it was quite a challenge. But once I got into the flow, that was it. There was no stopping me. No stopping him either.
I think you got like a good balance in him though, because there's sort of, you can kind of understand his reasoning for some of his behavior.
Yeah.
And it doesn't seem as outright like
I wanted to kind of introduce
to make it.
Yeah, I wanted to introduce the kind of coercive control aspect of it as well, because I had to give some reason for Kate to just suddenly go from being this single woman to being in a relationship with him, and so he needed to manipulate her in very, very gentle and subtle ways. So that was good. That was interesting to write. I liked that.
Would you use any of your interests like motor racing and stuff in a future book?
No, probably not. No, that's my escape. No, unless Lewis Hamilton decides that he wants to pop along and get murdered in a BDSM club. I don't know, but no.
You never know. She says, how far from the horrid lad from school is Ryan the character?
I think the only difference is the horrid lad from school was a proper short ass, whereas Ryan's quite tall. But he doesn't share his name or anything, so you wouldn't. The lad probably won't recognise himself in the book. I wouldn't have thought. But this lad who he's based on, he was such a, can I swear, he was such a dick. And he used to put a stone in one of his shoes so that he would walk with a swagger. I mean, that is I mean, we're talking like mid-80s now, but that's kind of the level of stupidness that we're dealing with.
Well, obviously stuck in your mind to like immortalize him slightly.
Because he annoyed me so much, and I think it was because you write about what you know, and you draw from your past and you draw from your experiences and stuff. I don't really have any horrible men in my life. Well, not right now. So it was kind of like, if you had to write about somebody, who would it be? It's like, oh yeah, him. Oh, do you remember him? Oh, he used to, and he used to put a stone in his shoe so he'd walk with a swagger. Dickhead.
So, she says, any idea what happened to him afterwards?
He's serving 20 years. So I'm going to say that. And the lad from school, he, no, I don't know. I'm just going to leave that there.
I don't think I'd know who anyone I went to school with was doing. Maybe one person.
Yeah, school days weren't my strong point.
Mine neither. Says the future.
Wow, that you wouldn't have paid me enough money in the world to be a teacher. I hated all my teachers. I hated school.
All right,
apparently on my first day, when I was kind of 4 or 5 or however old, I said to my mum, I said, well, that was all right to do for a day, but I'm not going again.
My brother said exactly the same.
Really?
Yeah, it was nice, but I'm not going back.
Yeah, I hated school. We just did not get on.
No, I'm with you on that. I wasn't a fan either. But it's good. We've got 4 minutes left.
Oh, wow. Gosh, that's flown by.
I know. Give everyone a reminder about The Lies She Told and where they can source copies.
Okay, so this is the book, The Lies She Told. Oh, get this right. There you go. That way. The Lies She Told. It is now available on Amazon. It is £1.99 for the Kindle version. It is £6.99 for the paperback. Or it is in the Kindle Unlimited program, so you can read it for free. If you would like a signed copy, then just drop me a message. Is that all right to say that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Just drop me a PM and I shall sort that out for you. It's a contemporary psychological thriller set in Highlands of Scotland, where Kate just wants to escape and live a peaceful life after escaping an abusive marriage and a turbulent relationship. When Ryan finds her, he systematically and terrifyingly tears it apart.
So we're laughing at Sam. She says you'll never make a weather reporter.
I really won't.
Have you read your reviews so far?
I've read the ones on Goodreads. Yeah, the ones on, I think I've had 23 reviews on Goodreads. I've read them. Not as obsessively as I did when I first started to get them. But yes, I've read them. I'm very pleased.
Pretty good for a debut book.
Yeah, a lot of work went into getting those. I didn't bribe anybody, but yeah. Again, that's but it's the market. It's having the marketing experience to be able to do that. I started early. So yeah, I've read some of them. And just won't let it go to my head.
Well, I think we just need to thank you for coming on.
No problem at all. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for having me.
You have to come back for book 2.
I will, if you'll have me again.
We will definitely have you again. And I'll be off screen asking the questions that time.
Are you okay?
To get my revenge. That'd be fabulous. We'd really love to have you back.
No problem at all. That's fine.